The desert stretched endlessly in every direction, barren and scorched under the unforgiving sun. Adam had been walking for what felt like hours, his boots crunching over dry earth and bleached rock. The heat shimmered in waves, warping the air around him like a mirage. But his resolve didn't falter. He wasn't here by accident. He was following a map, or more precisely, a letter. Adam was 20 years old, tall and lean, with dark hair tousled by the wind and eyes that had seen more than most people twice his age. There was a stillness in him, a strange quiet, as though a storm lived behind his calm expression. He didn't scare easily. He didn't run. He fought. He didn't fight because he had to. He fought because he loved to. There was something exhilarating about the crack of a punch, the sharp rush of adrenaline when fists met flesh. Even when bleeding, even when broken, a grin would find its way to his face. It wasn't recklessness. It was something deeper, a joy in struggle, in testing his limits. That instinct had gotten him into trouble more times than he could count, but it had also gotten him here. He stood before the rusted hatch of what looked like an old military installation, half buried beneath a dune. The metal door was covered in sand and age, but a small black plaque was still visible, worn down to almost nothing. Test Site B, Echo Seed, and Ouroboros snake logo on the top. Adam looked down at his arm. It was just like the one he had. He wasn't sure when or where he got it, but combined with this strange letter he received, it had sparked a curiosity he could not ignore. His hand hesitated only briefly before he pulled the lever beside the door. A groan of metal echoed as the hatch opened, releasing a stale breath of air. The interior was dark, but not silent. Something hummed, faint and distant, like machinery that had never fully powered down. Adam stepped inside. The hallway was narrow and industrial, fluorescent lights flickering overhead. As he moved deeper, the structure began to change. The concrete became pristine white tile. The pipes vanished. The hallway widened and bent at impossible angles. When he turned to look back, the door was gone. He blinked, then turned a full circle. Nothing, just a seamless white chamber, stretching in every direction. The hell. Red stains marked the walls here and there, not fresh, but not old either. They trailed like breadcrumbs into nearby corridors, each one visible only when he looked directly at it. When he turned his head, the corridors vanished like they had never been there. Adam's fingers flexed. His heartbeat quickened. Fear tugged at the back of his mind, but he pushed it down. Whatever this place was, it wasn't right. And whatever had pulled him here, it wasn't done with him yet. He stepped forward. The white swallowed him. The first thing he noticed was the silence. It wasn't the quiet of emptiness. It was the kind that pressed against your eardrums, made your thoughts feel loud. His footsteps echoed impossibly far in all directions. Every room he passed through looked nearly identical, sterile, glowing, surreal. He tried marking the walls, red smudges on white tile. After a few turns, he came back to the same mark, or one just like it. It didn't make sense. Nothing did. Adam's breath steamed in the air, though it wasn't cold. He passed another corridor and turned sharply into a new room and froze. A man stood on the other side of the room. No, not a man. A boy, 17 maybe. And he looked familiar. Too familiar. Same posture. Same scar under the left eye. Same defiant glare. You'll get used to the hunger, the boy said calmly. The screaming too. Adam took a step forward, fists clenched. Who the hell are you? The boy tilted his head. You, just a little earlier. Before Adam could speak again, the boy walked past him and vanished into a wall. No, through like a ghost. Adam stared at the empty space. That was the beginning of the madness. He saw more versions of himself in the hours or days that followed. Older, younger, wounded, dead-eyed, laughing. One looked like they were half a monster. Each one offered riddles. Some warned him to run. Others urged him to stay. A few just watched him intently, like animals observing a future corpse. He began to feel the shape of something larger at work. Some twisted loop of time and fate pulling on him. And then he heard the skittering, long, scraping legs against tile. A wet hiss, something massive moved just out of sight. A flash of segmented flesh, mandibles clicking. Adam froze and then bolted. He ran blindly, each corner revealing more of the same until he slammed into something soft, something warm, a woman. She looked like a survivor, gaunt, pale, wearing the tattered remains of a lab coat. Her eyes were wide with madness. She looked at Adam with a feeling Adam wasn't quite sure where to place. "Don't let them sting you," she whispered, her voice cracking. "They make you live forever, but you'll feel every bite forever." Before he could ask her anything, a centipede crashed from around the corner. She screamed and ran, disappearing around the next corridor, leaving behind her name tag. Eve was written on it. Adam was alone again, but not for long. He turned and came face to face with the creature. It was 2 meters long, with black, glistening plates and a mouth filled with needles. It lunged. Adam dodged barely. A fight. Finally, his grin widened as his fists came up. "All right then," he growled. "Let's see what you've got." The thing lunged. He dodged again and slammed his boot down on its back. It screeched, leather on bone, and coiled its body around his leg. Pain erupted as fangs pierced his calf. But Adam gritted his teeth and punched it over and over, his knuckles tearing on its armor. Blood, his and the creature's, splattered across the floor. It took longer than he expected, but eventually the creature stopped moving. He leaned against a wall, panting. The bite burned like fire, his vision swimming. He struggled to remain on his feet. The pain should have dropped him, but he was still standing, not just standing, but alive. The venom hadn't killed him. He ripped off part of his shirt and tied a makeshift tourniquet. "Guess I can't die in here, but it still hurts like hell." As he staggered forward, the world twisted. Rooms shifted. He passed through a cafeteria. The tables turned over and rotten food trays all over the place. In a side room, he found beds and blankets, proof others have been here before. He even saw a writing on the walls. "Time is broken," and a name, Claire. That's when he saw himself. A boy no older than 15 stared back at him from the hallway. Adam, the younger version of himself, looked terrified. Adam blinked, unsure if he was hallucinating. But the boy reached out and touched his arm. "You have to keep going," the boy said. "They're all counting on you." Then he vanished. No noise, no movement, just gone. Adam's heart pounded. What the hell is this place? He wandered deeper, following the impossible architecture. He started to piece it together. He wasn't moving through space. Space was folding around him. Doorways appeared only when acknowledged. Entire rooms blinked into existence or vanished, depending on his attention. It wasn't a place, it was a trap. Eventually, he found a stairwell leading down. The air grew colder, heavier. The silence was complete, except for a sound, scratching, crawling, more of the centipedes. He looked at his fists, still smeared with blood. "All right, round 2. Adam smiled. He had been wandering the white halls for what felt like days. Tom didn't work here. Hunger gnawed at him, but he didn't starve. He felt pain, but he didn't die. His last fight with the centipedes was tough, but once again Adam came on top. Sleep came in short, nightmarish bursts, only for him to wake in different rooms than where he'd closed his eyes. And the other versions of himself kept appearing. A man in his 30s with scars running down his face warned him not to trust the rooms with mirrors. A much older version, nearly 60 and weary-eyed, told him the centipedes weren't the worst things here. And one drenched in blood with a feral look in his eyes said to stay. "It's fun here. We all lead back to her." They all whispered in sync suddenly. "We all lead back to Claire." None of them stayed. None of them ever helped him fight. They only nudged him along, steering him like chess pieces towards some inevitable end. Eventually, Adam stopped listing them. That's when he saw her. The girl, Eve, she looked just like he remembered. Pale skin, black hair, eyes like fading stars, and the same lab coat. It was the first time in so long Adam had met another person other than himself. They stayed together for a long time. Adam was able to protect Eve, even though they could not quench their hunger nor thirst. Adam was happy to have company. Eve, however, saw Adam in a completely different light. But one day, as they explored, she had vanished. When he saw her again, she was staring at him. She didn't say anything, just watching from a hallway, as if seeing a ghost as she turned and walked away. Adam followed her deeper into the maze, and the walls began to bleed. The white turned to red. It dripped like sweat from the ceiling, soaked through his shoes. He slipped, caught himself on the wall, which pulsed beneath his hand like living flesh. He could hear whispers now, echoes of laughter, screams, his own voice fractured and distorted. He pressed forward. Something had changed. The architecture was shifting faster, now aggressively. Doors snapped open only to vanish as he neared. Hallways coiled into spirals. Staircases turned inward on themselves. Eventually, he found a room filled with mirrors. Each one showed a different version of him. Young, old, dying, screaming, laughing. Some were fighting, some were begging. One was being consumed by centipedes, unmoving and silent. One version met his gaze. "You have to die to become what we are meant to be," he whispered. Adam smashed that mirror. Blood leaked from his knuckles, and this time the pain felt different, sharper, deeper, like something inside him was cracking. He turned to leave the room and found the centipedes waiting. Dozens of them, all clicking and hissing, and standing behind them, towering and monstrous, was her. Not Eve, not anymore. Something else. A centipede body, immense and coiled, with a humanoid torso that stretched too long. Her mouth opened sideways. Her eyes burned with something ancient and cruel. Adam felt fear then, real, primal fear. Then came a crackling. Dozens of the centipedes poured in from behind the mirror, which shattered outward in an explosion of glass. They swarmed him, biting, tearing, shredding. He screamed until his voice broke, his limbs twitching as they injected venom over and over. The world dimmed, and in that pain, something bloomed. Not a death, a change. As the venom coursed through his blood, the voices of the other Adams returned, not in hallucinations, but in his mind, overlapping. "We've done this before. We always become the weapon. Let hurt. Let burn. Let make you." And he did. His fingers lengthened, muscles tore and reshaped. His bones cracked, stretching into new forms. His senses sharpened, smell, hearing. Instinct. A primal fury awakened inside him. He was becoming something else, something more. His mind fractured, but something ancient clawed its way in. A furious will awaken by agony. His flesh warped. His muscles tore and reformed. Bones snapped and twisted. His vision shifted into something more primal. Memories, his and not his, collided in a storm. He saw himself hundreds of times, hundreds of lives, fighting, bleeding, failing. Each one led to this moment. He remembered pain. He remembered fear. He remembered a name, Claire. But now it was all submerged beneath something ancient, something feral, rage. And beneath that purpose, he wasn't alone anymore. He could feel the others, echoes of himself like a chorus behind his eyes. Some screamed, some laughed, some wept, but all of them moved toward one goal. Time slipped into irrelevance. Minutes, hours, days, they lost all meaning inside the maze of white halls and shifting geometry. The Adam that had stepped through the desert blast door was long gone. In his place, something else walked, something evolving, feeding on adrenaline, rage, and a primal joy he hadn't known he possessed. His body was changing. It started slowly, first with the healing. Wounds that should have taken weeks mend overnight. The centipede venom, once searing through his veins, had become fuel. His senses sharpened. He could hear the faint scratching of centipede from dozens of rooms away, smell the metallic tinge of blood before he saw it. Then came the strength. He tore through creatures with his bare hands. Fangs broke against his skin. Claws skidded harmlessly off his arms. His laughter echoed through the endless halls as he tore them limb from limb, blood drenching his furrowed skin, now darker, thicker, beginning to resemble a kind of armor. And deep down he loved it. He rose from the floor, the swarm dead around him. His claws were soaked in their blood. He looked at himself in the broken mirror, no longer at him, but something more, something stronger, and far, far from human. Fighting had always thrilled him, but now it was ecstasy. The rush of battle was no longer just a challenge. It was purpose. The crack of bones beneath his fists, the shrieks of monsters dying at his feet. This was his gospel. He had become something mythic, But amid the bloodlust came reflection. He stood before a mirror one day, an impossible thing in this place, found in a room that had no entrance, and saw not the monster, not the beast he had become. He saw himself, 20 years old, human and afraid. It wasn't supposed to be like this. The experiment was supposed to be beautiful. Just like that shadow she saw her first day. I wanted to make myself just as beautiful. Eve remembered the experiment. The lab was hidden deep in the desert. She had been proud, so proud to be part of it. They were breaking the laws of reality in that facility. Eve had only wanted to make a difference. The experiment had been her brainchild, a gateway to a better dimension, a place of rebirth, but it turned into a place of horror. The spiders had been her first mistake, the golden eye, her second, and Adam was her deepest regret. He had suffered because of her, but she still loved him. And in this place, twisted and eternal, her love had become a sickness. She could feel herself changing. She wanted to keep him here, to change him, to become something greater. Together, they were gods, she thought, but gods can make mistakes too. A fracture opened, a door into somewhere else. Not another universe, not a parallel world, but a place outside of existence itself. The white halls, the silence, the pain. Everything went wrong. The experiment fractured her mind, fractured her body. She tried to scream, but the pain was eternal. The walls folded around her, and she became something new. The centipedes were born from her nerves. Her bones twisted into corridors. She watched people die for decades, and she waited. She remembered Adam. She missed him. When she saw him again, something inside her wept. But she had no more voice to cry. She remembered watching him scream as the centipedes tore his flesh. She remembered herself hiding in the corner watching, praying they would not find her, praying for someone to save her. But deep down, she didn't want saving. She wanted him. She wanted Adam. One day, she just let it happen. She ly on the floor, and the centipedes came. They were the anomaly's immune system. They devoured change. They punished resistance. They wrapped her in pain until all she could do was think. And then she stopped thinking. Her body grew, stretched, merged with the centipedes. Her legs vanished, replaced by the endless chitin and fangs, but she still remembered Adam. She always remembered Adam. She never forgot. He had been brave, strong, and when she saw him again, monstrous and beautiful and perfect, she smiled. She whispered, "We must remain here forever." But Adam didn't stop. He never gave up, no matter what he had been through. He still seeked a way out. Adam, what was left of him, wandered through the unrealm with a gait no longer quite human. His legs had become digitigrade, paws thudding softly against the sterile white floors. Claws extended from fingers that had once held pens, phones, dreams. He stared at the reflection, heart pounding. The boy in the mirror looked up at him with pleading eyes. And for the first time in years, he remembered fear, not of dying, but of forgetting who he was. Then the centipedes came. A wave of centipedes spilled from the ceiling, walls, floors. To Meanie. He was overwhelmed, dragged to the ground, bitten, torn, devoured alive. But he did not scream. He remembered. As they tore at his flesh, he embraced it. This was a final step. The crucible, the cocoon. They thought they were feeding, but they were transforming him. He emerged hours later, changed. Almost 10 feet tall, lupin in shape, but upright, muscle rippling under black fur, glowing red eyes burned with purpose. Claws like sabers, fangs like daggers. This was himself, and it remembered its name, Adam. Centuries later, the unrealm, frozen in endless time. The halls were quieter now. Eve had grown, too. Eve was no longer just a centipede hybrid. She had become a towering, coiling abomination of flesh, steel, and hatred. Her laughter echoed across dimensions. Reality bent around her presence. Those who wandered close were erased, minds shattered, bodies warped, but one presence remained constant. Adam. Adam no longer fought to survive. He fought because it was the only thing that felt real, the only thing that made sense. Every time he ripped into the centipedes, tore them apart with bare hands or makeshift weapons, he felt more alive, more himself. He began to crave the fight. It wasn't just survival, it was liberation. Years passed, decades, centuries. Time was meaningless. He relished the hunt now. Each new enemy a puzzle, each fight a dance. He didn't fear monsters anymore. He was one. He stopped recognizing himself in the mirror. He had watched, waited, fought endless wars in the shadows. Each kill honed him. Each defeat taught him. His soul, once fragile, had become a weapon. Now, after uncountable time, years, centuries, eons, he stepped through the ever-shifting halls with a new fire in his chest. He no longer feared her. He no longer hated her. He understood her, but she had to die. As he approached the central chamber, her throne of writhing flesh and broken time, he whispered into the silence, "It ends now." Reality cracked. Eve called to him. "Adam," she said from the center of the blood-soaked throne room, where bone and centipede shells lined the walls. "You came back to me." "No," he growled, "I can't end this." "You don't mean that." "You can't. You feel it too. This is what we were always meant to be, gods in our own kingdom of pain. I feel nothing for you but rage." She approached, eyes shimmering with false love. "You and I are perfect now. Stay. Rule this place with me." With his place. Adam's claws extended, glinting with venom and old blood. "You lost me the moment you wanted me to become this." She screamed, and the final battle began. She conjured mazes, illusions, memories, twisting the holes into pieces of his past. She made him see his mother, his first love, his failures. Each vision clawed at his sanity, but he pushed forward through illusions and broken time. "You love the fight," she hissed. "Just like me. I love the fight," he roared. "But I hate this place." The battle raged for what felt like centuries. She struck with limbs made of bone and shadow. He countered with fists and teeth, with fury forged in every wound he ever suffered. They clashed like titans. Her venomous limbs struck with impossible speed, but he was faster, stronger. Each blow echoed like thunder. Blood and ichor painted the walls. In the end, he stood over her shattered form. She reached up with trembling fingers. "You'll be alone." "I've always been alone," said Adam. "Don't leave me," she whispered. "We were meant to be monsters together." He looked down at her with hollow eyes, and he crushed her throat. "You were always the monster," Adam said as he walked away. The world began to collapse. White walls cracked, the red faded, and a doorway appeared. He walked through, the sun burned his eyes, the desert wind returned. He was free, but he wasn't Adam anymore. He was something else. And somewhere deep inside, he still smiled. Adam emerged from the shifting hallways into the fading light of a dying sunset. The desert was still there. The world had not changed, but he had. As he walked away, something tugged at his senses. He turned just once and saw her. Not the monster, the girl. A young woman stood at the mouth of the rusted blast door, notebook in hand, pale skin, black hair, curious eyes full of dreams and potential. She had not yet become the thing he'd fought. Not yet. Eve. For a fleeting moment, she paused mid-step, as though catching a whisper on the wind. Her eyes drifted sideways, and just for a heartbeat, she saw him, a tall figure, scarred and otherworldly, vanishing into the horizon. Her breath caught. Who was that? How beautiful! Her mind raced. A question took root, and in that moment, the idea was born. As she pulled out a fold of the logo of a snake eating its tail, she scribbled down her idea for Project Echo Seed.